Dr. Wang.
Right. Thanks a lot for the introduction and having me here. Welcome everyone to today's talk. I'm Yan, and today we're going to talk about AI in 2024. We will spend about an hour discussing the technology as well as doing some demos. Then we will have the remaining time for a live Q&A session. I believe this talk is being recorded and the materials relevant to the course and mentioned during the talk will also be sent out. Actually, I believe it was already sent out in the email before. So let's dive right in. This year, we've talked to many people about their perspectives on AI, and we've discovered that opinions are even more divided than ever. Last year, with the fresh release of ChatGPT, some people, including myself, wondered if it was just another hyped up headline that wouldn't ultimately prove useful. Only a fraction of people truly started using and exploring it. But this year, the divide feels even more pronounced. Some people are enthusiastically embracing the latest AI advancements, claiming it's incredibly useful and that AI is now doing half of their work, enabling them to accomplish 5 or even 10 times more than before. For example, like Devin, an AI software development intern, you can delegate really complicated tasks of dataset discovery, downloading, cleaning, visualization to it. And he will even submit pull requests by himself. And on the other hand, some people, despite using AI daily, feel like ChatGPT hasn't really changed much. Sure, there's a new model called O1, which is slightly more capable and also slower, and you cannot chat using voice. But if you ask it how to get a promotion or a raise, it will give you some generic and unhelpful advice. And these two perspectives are dramatically different, and yet both seem to hold some truth. After observing for a while, we noticed a pattern. Those who hold the "it's not useful" opinion tend to primarily use the web or desktop version of ChatGPT or Claude in their daily lives. Like the figure on the left of the curve, they think, AI might be useful, but not remarkably so. However, those who find AI incredibly useful have often already been exposed to the concept of agents, perhaps through using tools like Cursor. They are represented by this figure on the right. While the difference in their understanding of AI might seem small in terms of time, due to how rapid AI is advancing, the capabilities they experience are vastly different. And this observation is fascinating. It highlights that while AI might not replace humans directly, the gap in the competitiveness between those who understand and utilize AI effectively and those who don't is widening rapidly. And this talk, including the AI-related course we will introduce in the end, has two main goals. The first is we want to tangibly demonstrate the groundbreaking advancements in AI in 2024 through demos. And second, we aim to help you adapt your thinking and approach to using AI. More importantly, we will explore how to keep pace with AI's progress, ensuring your future value increases and that you won't be easily replaced. Here, we'll use the example of a weekly business review. This is a common practice at Amazon and other companies where teams review key business metrics periodically. This typically involves looking at sales figures and other core data of the week and comparing them to the previous week and analyzing any issues or improvements. We use this example not to imply that AI is only useful for data analysis, but rather as a concrete illustration of the transformative changes in AI in 2024. And if you have different scenarios in mind, we encourage you to bring them up during the Q&A session at the end, or share them in the Superlinear Academy community, where we can have more specific discussions. And these conversations will benefit both you and other like-minded people in the community. And now, let's jump right in the demo. The weekly business review process usually involves two components. The first is the final visualization. Generally, we produce some data and using some tool to visualize the data. Here, people sometimes use Superset, Tableau, Google Spreadsheet, Excel. We use Google Spreadsheet just as a demonstration. people may plot the data as line charts with different metrics and title so that they could perform analysis based on that and include those figures in the email sent to the team. So this is the component of visualization. But you may ask, where does the data come from? And this data is from some database. In the real business scenario, the database would be some production-ready database, such as SQL Server, Cosmos DB, as well as DynamoDB, things like that. But for the demo purpose, we'll use a very simple SQLite database. As we can see here, we already have the database opened. It's not important that, what is each table's exact structure. But for our purpose, we only need to know there are 5 different tables hosting different kinds of information, and we could browse the data in them. This will be the basis for the analysis. And to demonstrate what the analyst would do in this case, they usually have a pre-written SQL query to generate those data because it's a weekly process. It needs to be done every week. So here, we'll use it as an example. In the Excel sheet, we have the data for the last week. In order to perform analysis for this week, we'll firstly duplicate it, probably rename it to December the 9th to December the 15th, and then go back to the SQL query, also changes the SQL query's date accordingly, execute it, get some data, copy paste it into the Google spreadsheet. Here, probably we need to first select all and then paste. Then we can go to the visualization, manually editing this chart so that it picks up the data from the new chart. To make the copy pasting even quicker, let's also copy the table name here and directly paste it here. All right, so this is a new visualization. But you may soon realize, hey, there's a problem. Why is it having a zigzag pattern like this? And then this would call for some debugging. After some tracing back to the original data, we soon realize, oh, this is because this row is the problematic row. We didn't really copy the headers here. So we need to redo the work, go back, copy the header, go back to the SQL query execution, and repaste this data here. Then we could get some visualization. But it would still be problematic if you directly send out figures like this because the date is still not corrected. So we still need to do other work. In addition to that, because the core task is to analyze the business metrics, here, one obvious problem or noteworthy thing is there's a peak in the total revenue. We need to do some analysis on that. In order to do that, we need to usually collect more data about what are the contributing factors of it, like what are the channels as well as the category of products that contributed to this total revenue so that we will be more clear on the potential costs and propose the next steps. And in order to do that, we have to go back to the SQL query, figure out more details on the table, like the column names, the data types, write new SQL queries, which is a time-consuming process. And for the limit of time, we won't directly demonstrate this process here. But as you can imagine, this is a very manual and error-prone process. And to make things worse, as an analyst, our core competency is analyze data. However, in this entire process, how well we're doing the work is actually not relevant with how well we're analyzing the data. It's actually most in how well we are attending to the details, we're not making mistakes, and how familiar we are with the syntax of SQL queries and with the underlying table structures. And this is really unfortunate. But this is actually the current situation for nearly all of the companies. And that's the manual way. This is why we feel painful. And then we can go to the second way, which is using ChatGPT. Think now come to 2023. Here, I use an example of using Claude, but ChatGPT is pretty much the same. Instead of us writing the SQL query, we could ask it, like, can you write a SQL query to retrieve the key metrics between December 9th and December the 15th? And if you directly ask it this question without supplying any background information, it's set for failure because it has no knowledge about the exact table structures of your dataset. In order to better support it, we need to treat it as an intern and think from backward what information needs to accomplish the task. For this case, it needs the table structures. We can't definitely manually write a paragraph to describe the table structures. But a more efficient way is we could go to the SQLite database. In the database structure, there is all the tables. We can right-click on one table and copy, create a statement. I already pasted it here. It looks like this: create a table, data matrix, things like that. It has a bunch of important information. One is the table name, the column name, the data types, and even the foreign keys. So this is an efficient way of constructing the prompts. With properly constructed prompts, the AI will be well supported to come up with a SQL statement like this. We could directly copy it, go back to our SQLite query, SQLite environment, and execute it. After that, we could then select all and copy, go back, and paste the result here. But one change is, instead of going back to the Google spreadsheet and do the visualization here, because it's an AI environment, we could further ask it to do the visualization for us. Like this: attached are the results from the SQL database. Can you generate a visualization based on that? Then the AI will be able to write an HTML page to provide a dynamic interactive visualization. Here, we could directly open it in a new tab and check out the results. It did a decent job in visualizing it. It's interactive, so you can even directly get the exact numbers by hovering the mouse cursor on it. And from this, we can easily see that, oh, the daily revenue has a peak, which is our focus next step. Then we could go back to the AI and asking it, can you help me take a look at the revenue and purchases from different channels on December 12th and 13th? Of course, it needs more data structure to support its task. Therefore, we further attach the structure of the channels table. Then the AI is able to come up with a new SQL statement. We execute it again, copy pasted it back, the result, and ask it to help realize that and get this. Based on this figure, our task of analyzing will be much easier. And as you can see here, there are a few changes compared to the old workflow, important changes. The first is, instead of copy pasting from 3 different apps, now we're getting rid of the Excel or Google spreadsheet, which is actually a pretty error-prone process, because as you can see here, we made quite a few mistakes when we do the visualization and copy pasting. Now we get rid of it, which means we will have a better quality in accomplish our job. The second is, it also streamlined the investigation process. Instead of us writing SQL queries and battling all the syntax errors and potentially misremembering the column names or data types, AI will do it for us, and that will save us a lot of time. This allows us to focus more on the core analytics job rather than writing SQL queries. However, if you take a closer look at where our time was spent, it's actually still on, I would say, non-analytics stuff. We spend quite a few time to collect the data for the AI to better support its job. Like this, we still need to go to the SQLite database, collect this information, copy paste it, and yet another time-consuming part is the copy pasting. It's not only error-prone but also takes a lot of time. If you take a look at the shipments activity, like all the 12 live streaming from OpenAI, for the demos yesterday and the day before yesterday, they were also demoing all the fancy features of ChatGPT, no matter on the desktop or on the web. I also noticed that a lot of their time was also in copy pasting different information, answers from GPT to the other app, and vice versa. Therefore, this is potentially the ceiling if you are stuck on ChatGPT, this application itself, or Claude.ai. Can we make it better? Well, this is the major improvement AI has gone through in 2024. If you are limited to ChatGPT, I agree with you that AI potentially didn't really improve much in 2024. But if we talk about something like agents, things actually changed a lot. But before we explain what is agentic AI, by the way, they have 2 components. One is the capability of using tools. One is the capability of multi-turn decision-making. Let's first take a look at an example of tool usage. Here, I am running some GUI. It's called Open Web UI on my local machine. You can notice this, the domain name is localhost. It is an open source implementation of pretty much like a ChatGPT. However, because it's open source, it allows us to dive deep into the core implementation, which we will use that as a vehicle to explain what is the tool and how it can be implemented. Another reason I use this as an example is for a lot of people, due to the legal and compliance requirements, probably they cannot really send their data, especially customer data, to Anthropic or OpenAI. And if you are able to deploy an LLM right there on your machine, here I'm using the Q1 2.5 on my MacBook, then you potentially will become compliant again. So that's the reason why we are trying to use this Open Web UI as an example. Come back to the demo. We know that a fundamental problem of LLMs are it cannot really do arithmetic. If we ask it to do like a calculate, I don't know, I was just randomly striking my keyboard, this thing, then it will give you some answer, but likely not correct. We could potentially go to Python and use Python to calculate to get the standard answer. And it's like the last 4 digit should be 2801. If we come back, it's definitely wrong. It's like a 4651, not even close. So this is a fundamental problem of LLM, and it's not easily correctable because it lies in the nature of next token prediction of LLMs. They are not trained to do arithmetics. They are trained to predict the next token. But given if we're thinking about humans, we are not good at doing this kind of calculation as well. How did we solve the problem? We are given a calculator. We invented a calculator. Then the problem is, why not we give AI a calculator? If the AI is able to utilize external tools, then potentially it could directly get the correct answer. And let's try it out. In this Open Web UI, there is a capability called tool usage. I already wrote this tool, which we'll check out later, called calculator. Then we could directly, sorry, I need to copy paste it. We could directly copy the question here, but with the calculator tool enabled. Then let's try it again. Under the hood, what happened was with this checkbox checked, the AI is informed that, hey, you have an external tool available, which is called a calculator. It also introduces its goal, its how to invoke it, and then the AI is able to invoke that capability and give a result ending with 2801. And let's take a look at this, 2801, exactly correct. So what we did is we use a very simple trick to correct or give AI an extra capability that it doesn't possess before. We fixed the severe problem of AI with a very simple tool. And how it was implemented is actually really simple. We can go to Workspace, Tools, Calculator, and edit it to see the detail. It's actually a very simple Python program. It has 3 parts. The first is this comment. It tells the AI what the tool is for and when to use this tool. The second part is the function interface as well as the docstring, which tells the AI exact interface of this tool, how it should invoke this tool. And the third is the real heavy lifting part. It uses Python to do the evaluation of the expression, the equation, and return the result. So this is how easy to implement this tool. But how is it relevant with our weekly business review? Well, the access to SQLite database can also be treated as a tool. And this perspective actually will give us a lot of benefits. I have written another agent here or tool here called a SQLite Access Agent. If you use the Open Web UI, you can also go to this. It's an Open Web UI community website. Go to this URL. By the way, it was also available in our homepage here, SQLite agent. Then directly click Get. You will be able to deploy it right on your Open Web UI instance. After we do that, we could then check this tool and ask it some questions about our data directly, like what tables do you have in your SQLite database? Then it will be informed about the existence of this tool and invoke relevant functions to generate. And we can see that it correctly answered the question: channels, customer types, daily matrix. And potentially we could do like, show me the first 5 rows of daily matrix table in Markdown. and it will then invoke this LLM in the backend. We can see the memory pressure jumps up. This is because it's running on my MacBook locally. No data has left the local internet or my machine. And then we can see. So probably, okay, great. And then because this is running on my MacBook, it may be slow. We already prepared some chat history I did before. It's pretty much the same as we just demonstrated. And then we could ask it to show me the content of other tables, which it said it did perfectly. The core is here. Write a SQL query to calculate the core daily matrix between the December the 9th and December the 15th. And potentially we need to give it some nudges in order to make it work, to write the correct SQL queries, which is you may need to join with a dates table and sum per day. Then it is able to invoke, by the way, this is the source. It shows what exact tools it invoked during the process. It writes SQL query, and then we ask it to execute a query and show me the result. This is a key capability because it allows not only to pull the data from it, but also the capability of directly querying against the database. And this introduces a big difference in our workflow because now we no longer need to directly switching between different apps again. Like from the SQLite database, we execute, we do the copy pasting and come back. It's all done by the AI. It does all the heavy lifting under the hood. This is a key difference. Then we could further ask it to do the same thing that Claude already did, visualize them in HTML charts, etc. The charts could be viewed here. There's artifacts, pretty much like Claude. And we could see, oh, there's an obvious peak on the total revenue, and we could continue the investigation. And if we step back and think about this, what has changed? The very first thing is we have spent considerably less time and effort in the SQL. We never really provided specific information about the underlying table structure to it. It figures it by itself. What we did was mainly to guide it on the high level, and we delegate more detailed tasks, implementation details to the AI. And the second is now we have a complete pipeline from data collection, like SQLite table understanding, SQL query writing to visualization. And all the things are happening in one place. We do not need to do copy pasting anymore. We only need to access this Open Web UI. This is a very big change, and that can immediately enable us to do a higher quality work as well as spending lower amount of time. And that's a big change. But if you really look at the prompts I use, you will soon realize, hey, why are you decomposing them into so small pieces? Like first ask it to write a SQL query, and then ask it to execute a query. Why don't you do both at once? Why did you ask it to first show daily matrix and then show the dates? Why not just ask it to explore the SQL query, the SQLite database by itself? And this is because the Open Web UI at the current stage still has a severe limitation. It is only allowed to invoke the tool once during one round of conversation. And that's the reason why we have to decompose the task to fit the agent capabilities. That also is a limiting factor. And then you may ask, what will happen if the AI has the capability of doing multi-turn decision-making? Will that be an incremental change, or will that be a fundamental change? And let's try it out. This is actually the full-fledged form of the agentic AI. We mentioned that the first capability is tool usage. The second capability is to do multi-stage decision-making. Here, I already connected this SQLite database with Claude Desktop. Note that this has to be Claude Desktop. It cannot be the website version because it needs to access your local SQLite data file. And here I was using MCP, which is short for Model Context Protocol. Let me get a detour on to explain what is MCP. if you go back into the implementation of this tools, you will soon notice that it sticks with some protocol. We need to have some class. It needs to get some function and provide some certain form of docstring. This is a protocol. This is how you communicate with AI to introduce the usage as well as the goal of the tool so that it could utilize this tool effectively. But the problem is different tools or different platforms may have different protocol. If I directly use the same implementation here in the Claude, it won't be able to understand that. That's the reason why if you take a look at different APIs, the OpenAI and Anthropic actually have different implementation and requirements on the protocol. That's why Claude, the Anthropic, the company behind Claude, was trying to push for an open standard of specifying the tools, and it's called this MCP, Model Context Protocol. Any tools that implemented this protocol could be effectively used by Claude Desktop and a lot other is called clients. And here we can directly use, because we already connected our database with the Claude, we can directly ask it a few questions like, describe the SQLite database at your hand. After receiving this request, it soon realized, hey, I need to use the tool to solve this problem. And due to security concerns, we need to allow, specifically allow this run listed table operation on the SQLite database. Here we allow that because that's expected. Then it first run the listed table tool and figure out there are 5 tools, and then decides, based on the result, decides to call the describe table again, but for each table. So as we can see here, it tries out multiple tool usage in one round, and that gives it a pretty efficient way of collecting the information about the entire database. And here, and note that the latter operation was decided by the result of the former operation. And that's also one factor makes Claude very efficient and intelligent. All right, based on the information, it understands, oh, this appears to be an e-commerce analytics database with the following structure. This is the main table. There are 4 dimension tables, and it even uses read query to figure out some example data from the table. Now it really possesses a comprehensive view of this data set. So we could further ask it, like, can you generate a visualization of core metrics between December the 9th to December the 15th. Based on that, it first plans it and then realize I need to first use a SQL query to retrieve the data before I really write something to visualize the data. And then an interesting thing is it first writes a SQL query that didn't work. And then it simplified the query and make it work here. Now it was able to successfully get the result and write a HTML visualization or React visualization to realize those daily revenue, average order revenue, return rate, all the different kinds of metrics. And as you can see here, compared with the original way of manually doing it, it really changes everything. With only some very rough instructions, like just 2 sentences, we are getting a very comprehensive and tailored to our needs using our private data, the visualization, as well as even some analysis. It gives you some ideas of how to do analysis and key insights. Now we're like at least halfway done to the completion of weekly business review with only 2 sentences. That's the power of a full-fledged agentic AI. Of course, we could ask it further to investigate, like investigate why the daily revenue has a peak on December the 12th. Then it is able to do other magic, like writing the SQL queries and potentially giving some analysis. And note that it's doing things in an iterative way. First, getting the decomposition and then perform the comparison with the previous day. And gives us some quite decent analysis backed by evidences. And this is really impressive. All right, step back. We can see three differences compared with previous approaches. The first is, did you notice that we never mentioned SQL, this word, in the entire process? No SQL writing, no information collecting, no hand-holding to the AI. We just ask it from a whole business perspective. So instead of asking it to especially prompting it about hows, now we're really prompting it about what's. And that's a big shift in our mindset. And that really enables us to focus on the analytics, on the data, on making decisions, rather than collecting the data to do all the tedious work. This is the first difference. And the second difference is, as we mentioned before, it is able to use the combination of different tools to accomplish a task. And this is much more powerful comparing with it is only using one tool and then multiply it by several times. The combinatorial power is really important here. But if you take a look at how it accomplishes the task, it still has some drawback. I will not review it right now, but want to ask this question. What would you improve in this case? Do you feel very happy about it already? Actually, I would be so. It's already very convenient. But note that this is only the fourth approach in our demo. We still have the fifth approach. I hope the fifth approach will not blow your mind. So here, let's go to the fifth one. It's Cursor, it's an editor. Essentially, that's pretty much the same as the MCP, but with a few improvements. We will introduce the improvements along with the demo. Let's first take a look at how we will approach this problem differently with an agentic AI tool like Cursor. Note that we put this database file, ecommerce-data.db, locally in this folder. Therefore, Cursor is able to access that. And then we need to get some task to it. Here, because the prompt may be pretty long, I use a simple tool developed by me to dictate to it and use real-time GPT to get the prompt for us. Let's see whether it works or not. Yeah, it works. So we can dictate the prompt here. I have a SQLite database in ecommerce_data.db. Your task is to first explore this database and then try to draft a weekly business review report for me. The time range I'm interested in is 2024, December the 9th to 2024, December the 15th. I want the report to have quite some visualization, make it visual, and embed the visualization in a markdown file as the draft. So this is oops. So it looks like real-time GPT thought it's actually requested for it rather than a dictation. Let me try it again. We'd like to draft a weekly business review based on the SQLite database named ecommerce_data.db. I want to focus in the time span between 2024, 12, the 9th to 12, the 15th. Make it a visual and put it in a markdown report. All right. So if we don't make it a question, it potentially will not treat it as a request. This is also some prompting trick for real-time GPT. All right. And then no spelling issues, right? And potentially a trick. A trick is you may want to first explore the database before you do the analysis. All right. Let's make sure this is toggled at agent and click submit. All right, so first check if the database is there. Yes, great, I can see that file exists. Then write a Python script to explore database structure and create the weekly business review report. So it writes a Python, it's right here, and automatically run it, and then found some issue in the running, and try again, and then it has some error. And so it automatically realizes how the database structure is different. So it comes back to work on correcting the script. Updating the script, highlighting the differences, and execute it again. Let's run updated the script. Okay, great. And now it successfully generated the script. It also reads this markdown file. Let's take a look at here. Like 1 minute, it generates this weekly business review, the key metrics, daily revenue trend, channel performances, product category performance, and insights, new returning. This is like quite basic. I really wanted to give more thoughts on the analysis part. So do you see any points that worth more analysis? Make the analysis deeper or more insightful. Let's see how well it could do. All right, first updating the script, and note that it already wrote about more than 100 lines of code. If I am asked to do this job, that will probably take me at least 20 minutes, including to the debugging effort to make it work. But it's such an easy task for the AI. So it's still generating. And in this process, let's compare the difference here. There are a few key differences. The first is how we construct the prompt, or what we told this tool to do is no longer, it's even higher level. It's no longer like giving it a task and expecting it to do a job, this kind of execution, but more like a high level manager and direct reports relationship. What we are doing is essentially defining the problem. Like the problem is getting a report, a very high level. And the second is we try to assess how well it's doing. We try to assess the quality of the delivery. And when we find if there's a gap between the expectation and the actual delivery, we ask it to improve and give it a specific feedback. And wow, it really improves the quality. Now we have a channel analysis, a customer journey analysis, different decomposition on different dimensions. That's good. So this is an example of the job quality assessment. We could even nudge it further. Like if we have some analytics background, we could easily find out, hey, you didn't really mention why on Thursday there was a peak in the revenue trend. So potentially we could ask it to analyze why there is a peak on December, I think that's 13th, December the 13th. And potentially you can use search engine to figure out what happened on that day, so that it will consider not only the internal factors, but also the external factors. Potentially there are some events happening that day. Then it knows to invoke different tools. And this is the third difference. Claude and GPT-4, technically they have some kind of internet access capability, but they're quite limited. And using even the MCP to augment the capability of AI by implementing more agents is quite troublesome. If you really try to do that, you will find that the implementation usually involves hundreds of lines of code and you need to be familiar with that protocol. So it's really not that easy to augment the capability. However, in this tool of Cursor, you can directly use natural language to augment its capability. Here, what we did is, this is the prompt. In the tools, we specifically told it, you can use this file to scrape the web. You can use this tool to search the web. And actually, this Python file was also generated by Cursor itself. This makes it really easy to augment the capability of Cursor. That's the third difference between the Claude approach, the fourth approach, and this fifth approach. All right, let's take a look at the analysis. Now, it tried to do more peak day analysis, getting notable events, and category performance. This is like deeper analysis. However, if you take a look at this report, you will find it is not readily submittable because the audience is actually not an analyst. The audience is our org director. And potentially they will have different perspectives on what is important and what is not important. So we could further prompt or nudge cursor to do that. Thanks for doing that. But note that the audience, the reader of this report will be our organization's director. So please think about how to present this report in terms of the order and the content. You could move all the all the numbers to the end as an appendix. All right, and we need to be polite to the AI. Just to say thanks. Otherwise, we will have trouble when they revolutionize. So here, potentially the unimportant numbers. I'll rely on it to determine whether some numbers are important or unimportant, and still keep it visual, because I know our director likes visual things. And this is another example of how you could nudge it on the expectation. And also notice how this is different from how we use even the agentic AI before. We are really like talking with our direct reports, our teammates. We're giving really high-level guidance, inspirations, nudges, rather than specific instructions and the technical instructions on that. So now it's trying to produce some new data. And again, it encounters quite a few problems during the script writing, but it is able to figure it out by itself. This makes it, again, a lot like a direct report, a human. And therefore, the key difference is now we're no longer acting as, I would say, a tech lead. In the Claude example, we're more likely acting like a tech lead to give it instructions on technical side. But here, we're more acting like a manager. And this manager is also pretty different from human manager, because if you work in like human corporation, how many people you manage is not really relevant with like how many people you can manage. Like potentially you are scalable enough, you are energetic enough to manage 10 direct reports. But because the company only has 2 headcounts, then you're limited to 2. However, AI is entirely different. As long as you are able to manage 10 AIs, you're allowed to open 10 different cursor windows and just ask them to do 10 different things. So this is an entirely new scalability. As long as you know how to guide them effectively, you will be able to achieve 10 times more productivity, or potentially even more. Then here, this is the final version of the weekly business review report. It starts with some key highlights or executive summary with the key metrics. And it knows that as soon as the director sees this figure, she will ask, what's going on the December the 13th? And then it directly answers the question and propose more supporting data to further back the analysis with detailed metrics in the appendix. I want to ask you, what do you think about this report compared with your colleagues? Is it okay report? Is it good report? And that's basically it for our demo. It's like we use 10 minutes. We use 10 minutes and act as a role as a manager to prompt the cursor to do all the job. And that's what the agentic AI could bring to us. And I wanted to do some more reflection and summary here. Looking back, the way we leverage AI has gone a dramatic transformation compared with the manual or ChatGPT approach. In the manual stage, most of our time is actually spent switching between apps, copying and pasting data, and finding and correcting errors. A core skill for improving the work quality actually was attention to details and avoiding mistakes. We needed to write SQL queries proficiently and be familiar with its syntax, understand the nuances of various data sources, And this corresponded to the mindset and skills of a junior analyst. And then if we are able to utilize ChatGPT, it seems to make things much better. We no longer needed to do the deep SQL expertise, just have a good understanding of the underlying data structures and their meaning would be sufficient. And attention to details also becomes less critical as ChatGPT automated many steps for us. However, we still spent a significant time gathering information for the AI and copy-pasting code and error messages between ChatGPT and SQLite database. We also needed a strong prompt engineering skills, which still fell within the junior analyst domain, as most of our effort wasn't spent on actual data analysis, but on data gathering and presentation. But with the introduction of agents, everything changed. AI now possesses the entire pipeline, from reading table schemas and executing SQL queries to realization. We could finally dictate more time to the crucial task of data interpretation, analysis, and allowing us to focus on developing the skills of a senior analyst. However, with tools like OpenWeb UI, we still have a severe limitation. It still lacks multi-step decision-making capabilities. Therefore, we still need to break down problems to fit the agent's limitation. Once the AI evolves from the single step to multi-step decision-making, realizing this true agentic AI, its potential explodes. At this stage, using tools like a Cloud Desktop with plugins like MCP for our weekly business review, our work becomes almost entirely detached from SQL. We spend nearly 100% of our time thinking about the data, making judgments, and writing report. This drastically improves the efficiency and freeing our core capabilities from the constraints of programming and allowing us to focus on data analysis and reporting. And in this sense, our role becomes similar to a tech lead. We have some highly skilled programmers at our disposal, but the ultimate technical direction and decisions are still under we humans' control. The potential of combining advanced AI tools far surpasses the productivity gains of individual tools. Using tools like a Cursor or Windsurf, augmented with advanced AI agents, enables fully autonomous, in-depth analysis. These agents can even search the web and continue and combine the online information with local data to perform reasoning. And in this case, our role becomes twofold. One is define the problem. We specify the task and the criteria for success, allowing the agent to think and execute independently. And the second is we guide and manage. We evaluate the agent's performance, identify mistakes, provide guidance, and address the overlooked points. And then we steer it for the overall thought process. This closely resembles the managing human teams. And therefore, in this approach, our professional role becomes more like managerial than purely analytical. We don't deal with the technical hows, but focus on defining the problem, accessing the quality, and more on the what's. And unlike human managers, like the team size now is not limited by headcounts. AI allows us to scale effortlessly. We can open 10 cursor windows and provide guidance as needed. This is a truly scalable management approach, and even more powerful than traditional the human management roles. And now looking back at the previous illustration, the contrast should now be even clearer, especially after the fifth demo, experiencing the power of fully delegating everything to AI agents. You might also be thinking, like, what the fuck? Compared to those who still using ChatGPT or using the manual methods, those who embrace this new paradigm will undoubtedly have a significant competitive edge in the workplace. It's interesting to consider that if I had jumped straight to demonstrating the fifth demo, the impact or difference might not have been that clear. And that's why we started with the first method and progressively showcased the limitation of each approach. Effective learning involves encountering challenges and struggling to understand before being presented with a solution. By starting with the most basic method, experiencing the limitation, making mistakes, and correcting them, we gradually arrive at a more abstract understanding and a true cognitive upgrade. The goal of learning isn't simply knowing, oh, the fifth method is the best, but actually understanding the learning process itself, recognizing the potential pitfalls, and developing solutions, thereby enhancing our understanding from both positive and negative experiences. And actually, all the materials could be found in this website. Actually, we built it even using Cursor. The prompt is like this. I just get a screenshot of this table and then throw it to Cursor with some links here. And then it built this website, which is supposed to be visually pleasing, informative, and animated. After comparing these different approaches, a natural question arises. Now that we have reached the fifth stage, what should we do? What is our value? Where do we go from here? I won't answer that directly because the answer itself is not as important as you might think. The reason is that even though we have powerful agentic AI at the end of 2024, what happens if a more powerful model emerges in, say, 2025, potentially like the successor to O1, probably let's even not call it O2, but call it O3 because the leap of capabilities, or perhaps something entirely new. I don't know, let's call it like capsule AI, emerges in 2025. Would we then abandon everything we learned about agents and scramble to learn about this new technology? So instead of passively reacting to each new AI development, it's better to take one step back and prepare at a deeper level. Our goal should be to help everyone adapt to this dynamic and ever-evolving AI landscape. We want to equip you with the methodologies to adapt independently, rather than constantly playing catch-up. We want you to be able to distinguish value information from the noise of various media outlets and recognizing true innovations like agentic AI and filtering out the hypes. And this true empowerment, this like teaching you how to fish, is what will lead you to long-term career success. So if we want to truly transform ourselves for the age of AI over the long term, what should we do? Well, this involves a significant shift in perspectives. Before the AI era, companies valued employees who have attention to details, who are hardworking and willing to put in the hours. But as our discussion has shown, these qualities alone are now susceptible to automation. Computers are flawless, accurate, and can work 24/7. Therefore, the criteria for valuable employees have changed, especially considering the fifth approach. Companies are now needing individuals who can, one, define the problem. They need to understand the business and the product and translate them into precise and structured requirements. And two, communicate with AI. They need to effectively lead and manage AI and becoming good AI bosses. Three, decompose the tasks. They need to understand the limitation of AI and guide and manage its work. And this approach enables true scalability. One person plus 10 AI can equal a team of 10 people in the past. However, achieving this isn't easy. It requires training and development. To provide the most effective training, Yuzhen and I have spent a year developing and polishing an AI course. We have taught over 3,000 students from 20 countries, listening to their feedback and understanding their primary concern. We also have extensive engineering experience, giving us insight into the most valuable skills in the workplace. Over this year, we have iterated, refined, experimented, and producing nearly 200 pages of original teaching materials. Recognizing that many online courses go unused, we've condensed the most essential and practical elements into a 5-session live course. You can join us live on Maven via Zoom for interactive learning, or access the recordings at your own pace through the second link. Our goal isn't to dive into the technical details of AI or to familiarize you with a specific AI approach, even agentic AI. Instead, we aim to provide methodological training from a long-term historical perspective. Based on the significant time we have invested and the value we offer, we've received overwhelmingly positive feedback. Our course boasts a near-perfect 4.9 rating out of 5 on Maven and placing us among the top-rated courses. We are also proud to be among the few recognized top instructors on the platform. To show our appreciation, we'll be sharing a discount code at the end of this talk. For the live cohort-based course, you'll receive a $100 discount, and for the self-paced video course, a $50 discount. Returning to the topic of training, we need to focus on 4 key areas, all of which have been touched upon in the talk before. First, because the AI field is constantly evolving, we need to stay informed about the industry developments. For example, what is the practical use of Devin? What scenarios is it suitable for? What is windsurf? And how does it differ from Cursor? Why does Devin charge $500 per month, while Cursor is only $20? What about Open Web UI? If my company doesn't allow the use of commercial AI, can I host a local LLM? You can find the answers to these questions through proper training, eliminating the need to chase clickbait headlines from social media. And a concrete example is that before this talk, most people were likely unaware of MCP. But now, having heard the discussion, you likely appreciate its capabilities. However, you also understand that it's not perfect and better solutions exist. This highlights a key strength of our course. As JP Morgan's quant researcher Christine mentioned in her review, the course significantly opens her imagination about how GenAI could be used. Similarly, Lu mentioned in her review that the course provided her with numerous eye-opening examples. On a deeper level, this training, including this talk, offers more than just awareness of possibilities or innovative uses. Behind this application lies in a more profound perspective. For instance, the evolution of the 5 methods for conducting weekly business review, their comparison and contrast, and how they are interconnected provide a deeper understanding of their differences. This understanding allows you to recognize the significance of milestone advancements like Agentic AI. During our teaching, we're sometimes asked, what's the difference between your course and simply reading the documentation? The 5 approaches we discussed provide a perfect example. Anyone can learn a function of what the button does in Cursor's interface with a little exploration or by consulting the help resources. However, our course and this demo provides the crucial perspective needed to organically expand, combine, and apply these functions to become a truly scalable manager. And this is the core value proposition for the course. But there's more. In our next talk, we'll explain how simply knowing how to click buttons and use the UI unlocks only a fraction of Cursor's potential. By understanding 3 different mindsets, comment-based programming, prompt-based programming, and objective-based programming, you will gain a deeper understanding of how to maximize its potential in various situations. More importantly, you will develop a systematic approach to explore the application of future AI advancements from a more abstract and insightful perspective. These insights are readily accessible through training. We have invested significant time experimenting and reflecting, so you can benefit from our experience and avoid redundant exploration. This advantage is reflected in the student feedback. For example, Cherry, an UX manager at Google, noted that despite being an active AI tool user, the course and training elevated her understanding to a new level. Similarly, Virgil, a data scientist at Meta, expressed appreciation for the original thinking methods and practical skills acquired through the course. Beyond practical skills, our training delves into the whys behind the hows, exploring the inner workings of LLMs. We address common questions about LLMs such as, do LLMs have memory? Why is my ChatGPT lazier and less effective than others? What caused the hallucination? Can it be solved by tweaking the inference temperature? What's the purpose of fine-tuning? And what are its limitations? Is it appropriate to use LLMs in my specific scenario? Our course materials comprehensively cover and explain these topics, and our students have also resonated with this approach. For example, Junyi, a senior research scientist at SLB, noted that the course explains the whys behind various principles in a very accessible and insightful manner. Finally, some potential students might wonder, I'm not used to writing code. Will I struggle to understand the course? Not at all. Even without extensive development experience, or if your projects are not directly related to software development, you can still gain significant insights from our course. Firstly, our teaching focuses on abstract, high-level principles applicable beyond software development. Second, we provide very detailed answers tailored to your specific scenarios and questions. Actually, our students come from diverse backgrounds, including professors in universities and people working in finance, healthcare, IT, and various global sectors. We also have students themselves working as AI specialists in OpenAI or AWS Bedrock, and everyone finds something valuable. For example, An's highlighted the value of the instructor's handy and instant feedback. And similarly, Xing appreciated the detailed responses we provided to his very specific questions. Even students outside the tech industry, like Max, have found the course highly beneficial. Theory alone isn't enough. We provide hands-on guidance using projects you're interested in to teach good practices. More importantly, we cultivate a builder's mindset, a mindset that encourages you to challenge the status quo, leverage AI to build tools, and embrace innovation. Our student Lingbo mentioned that after taking our course, she not only gained the theoretical and technical knowledge, but also fundamentally changed her perspective on AI. It encouraged her to have more experimentation and innovation to explore how to use AI in her work. If you can only remember one thing from this talk, I hope it's the builder's mindset. Even the specific examples of the weekly business review, the 5 methods we compared, and the agentic AI are less important than this core concept. The most crucial takeaway is the courage to explore and experiment, the builder's mindset. When a tool isn't working for you, don't assume you're powerless to change it. This might have been difficult in the past. People would say, oh, I'm not formally trained. I cannot build these things. But now with AI, especially agentic AI, you just need to provide the direction, and AI can handle the execution. This empowers anyone to become a builder. Especially now, AI is still very new and even seems distant to most people. This is like the early days of Gold Rush, with opportunities for massive productivity gains everywhere. So embrace the builder's mindset and seek out those opportunities to dramatically improve your own productivity and that of others. This benefits the society as a whole and naturally leads to professional and financial rewards for you. Thank you for attending the presentation. We are offering a discount code for our course, Pioneering Minds. For the Maven cohort-based course, originally $999, this code provides a $100 discount. And for the self-paced course, original $499, this code provides a $50 discount. We often get asked why this course is so expensive. Not everyone can afford $1,000 or $500 for a course. But I'd like to ask you, is what you learned in this free talk worth $500? Or, considering the value it could create in your career, the time it could save, and the quality improvement it could bring to your work, is it worth $500? When you compare the potential gains to the cost, $500 seems quite small. I can confidently say that the insights and techniques in our nearly 200 pages of course materials and 5 hours of live sessions and recordings are worth much more than just the agentic AI techniques discussed here. From that perspective, the course is a bargain. Also, many companies reimburse employees for professional development courses like this. We provide email templates to be sent to your manager and a certificate of completion for approval purposes. Our course is constantly updated. In recent months, we've made 3 major updates to the curriculum and added dozens of pages of new material. Previous students get all these updates for free, and because of this, we plan to increase the price soon. The Pioneering Minds discount code also expires at midnight on December the 23rd as well. We encourage you to seize this opportunity to stay ahead of the curve in this rapidly changing AI landscape and gain a competitive edge. And thanks a lot for attending. I'm ready to take more questions.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Wang. And thank you so much for the talk and amazing demo. So I want to add to that, many companies, as you mentioned, probably provide reimbursement for educational costs, and make sure you leverage that. And personally, I want to add a few comments, is that, as Dr. Wang mentioned previously, when we begin our career, what we will do mostly is to execute on what we are being told to do. But as we progress in our career, in our life, the ability to think for ourselves and ask the right questions think about what to be solved becomes much more important. And it actually gradually increases in terms of importance the further you go in your corporate ladder and roles. And to add on his earlier example, I have been talking with a few engineering directors in the New York space, and they do not have coding experience before, but they have told me that they were able to, source through their thousands of contacts in a matter of 15 minutes just by asking ChatGPT on how to do that. And they learned about Python and did all that stuff. So pretty amazing stuff coming in here. And with all of this agentic stuff coming in 2025 and all the fantastic models, I'm pretty sure there will be much more, I would say, utilities and potentials to be unleashed. All right, with that said, we will start with the QA session. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to speak up. And I would recommend if you have questions, please turn on your video as well. We'll switch to the online QA panel first, and we'll come back to the audience. Let me see which one is that. I think this one is the session. Okay, give me a sec. So can everyone see the questions here or not?
I'm still sharing, so I guess not. But I can also walk through the questions. I can see the questions on the Slido.
Awesome. How do I zoom out this Chrome? Okay, anyhow. Nice. I am sharing right now.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
Do I need to stop sharing?
I guess you can stop sharing for a moment. And just as an FYI, recordings and of the materials, resources, as well as the promotion code shared by Dr. Wang will be shared with all the participants today, especially to our community members. So make sure that you actually sign up for our newsletter. Okay, so the first question got most upvotes. Can you walk through how you set up the local server with the UI? Yeah, that was very interesting because I see the UI is very different from what we normally see with the ChatGPT and Cloud.
Yeah, I can do a live demo if I can share my screen back.
Sure. Let me just stop sharing my screen.
All right. So this is I use two things. One is called OpenWeb UI. This is the front end providing the web UI. And another thing is called Ollama. It's the backend providing LLM inference. Both of them are very easy to install.
Right now?
Yes, I'm sharing my screen on Zoom.
I do not see it.
I guess.
Okay, I see it now.
Okay, great. And one is called Ollama for the backend, one is called OpenWeb UI in the front end. Both of them are very easy to install. Essentially, Ollama is you can just download and choose your operating system, install it, that's it. After that, you can use, go to models, put any model you have interest in, copy this command, run it, that's it. And for the OpenWeb UI, it's also pretty similar. It has, in the get started, it has a Docker command line, just run it. With the Ollama base URL specified, it has a very detailed instructions, and then you're good to go. It's that easy. But I want to do more demonstration on the feature of this tool. It's actually very, very powerful. It actually allows us to connect with not only the local LLMs, but also the OpenAI and Anthropic LLMs. For example, I could use Claude and GPT even o1 right here. I could also compare the results, say, between Claude and o1. I know, tell me a joke. Then it will issue requests to both and collect the result and show them at once. All right. It also has a lot of other features. One example is tools. We already demonstrated the calculator and SQLite. Note that we can do a lot of things with tools. It could enable it to do web search, to do some web scraping, so that it has even better capabilities of having the understanding the web. It also allows us to do RAG, a retrieval augmented generation. For example, we already put a knowledge base here with my blog. Then in the chat, we could simply use the sharp key to invoke any file or knowledge base we have uploaded. In addition to that, it gives us many configuration flexibility. For example, we could configure what exact embedding model we will use. Here, actually, I'm not using the OpenAI API, but an open source embedding model, which turned out to be even better than OpenAI according to the benchmarks. You can also specify not only the retriever, but also the re-ranker and customize the RAG template. Because of the nature of open source, it has really a lot of potential of customization. It even has the capability of doing all the different customization. One example is here. I did some customization on the Q1 and the O1 mini to enable long context and even chain of thought. It's all in my community webpage. Like here, if you go to my account, I didn't really sign in here, but I can give you the link later, which you can directly download all this tools and prompts and everything from the community website. It's also very easy to share. So that's a very brief demo. You can do a lot of other things and 100% customization on this tool. There's really a lot to do.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Wang, for walkthrough.
Thank you.
Many of us will probably jump right onto that after the talk. Cool. Let's see. The next question. Closer. So next question is, what is the most efficient and effective process to create constructive prompts? For example, we have multiple files that exceed upload limit. I believe it's referring to when we do cloud ChatGPT. We have, I think, 5 files for cloud, 10 for ChatGPT. But it seems from what you have just shown us, we can potentially customize that with the Olama.
Yeah, I see there are 2 different questions. The first question is about the prompt construction, and the second question is about the upload limit. I will answer them one by one. For the prompt construction, I know there is a field called prompt engineering, but personally, I don't really think that's a long-term solution. If you have been using ChatGPT from like a year ago to now, you will find that it's smarter and smarter. We don't really need a lot of tricks like I am the best seller writer in New York, like a New York Times. We don't need that anymore. We just directly tell it what to do, like doing some wordsmith to make my article more readable, things like that. The so-called tricks of like role-playing this kind of prompt engineering is playing a smaller and smaller role in the recent LLMs. Therefore, from this perspective, prompt engineering is less important. However, it's getting even more important if we're talking about the content. The key lies in your understanding on the business or the product requirements beforehand. If you have very specific tailored requests, it will make your LLM working much more effectively. For example, if you just tell it, make my writing better, compared with a highly specific requirements like make my writing concise and make it easy to read, make the sentences shorter, the latter will give you much better results. And this value actually comes from your recognition, your understanding of what is defined as a success criteria of good writing. The same thing applies to all the different products and all the different products as well. So the prompt engineering really comes down to the content of the understanding of the problem. So this is the first question. The second question is, what shall I do if the file exceeds upload limit? First, I don't want to answer this question directly because potentially there are deeper reasons for that. You need to first understand why the LLM or ChatGPT put a restriction on the upload limit. The reason is the context window is limited. It's not infinite. It's it's limited that how much content you could squeeze in the input of an LLM. And because of that, they need to put a limit on the content, the amount of content you need to fit in. Actually, OpenAI and Anthropic have different strategies on that. OpenAI's strategy is when you upload a file, they will first do a retrieval augmented generation to retrieve the relevant content and then feed in those content as the prompt. That's the reason why it gives you a pretty generous upload limit for the APIs. I believe that's like 512 megabytes. But for Anthropic, that's entirely different. They will simply throw every single word that you fit into the uploaded file into the context window. It gives it much better performance, intelligence than ChatGPT, but also much lower limit on the content upload limit. So to better answer your question, I would encourage you to think about what do you really want from those uploaded files. If it's for, say, just comprehensiveness, potentially you could use something like a RAG, retrieval augmented generation. If it's compressible, like you could potentially first summarize the major content of it before you send it to LLM. It really depends on your purpose. That's my answer.
Thank you for the answer. Okay, so that's the next one. I'm gonna start. What's your view on the progress of agent-based tools in 2025? There are a lot of tools out there. Which one would you suggest we keep an eye on in the coming year?
That's a good question, but unfortunately, I don't know. The reason is, if you imagine like 3 months ago, even the moment before you attend this talk, can you imagine Cursor could do something like that? I couldn't imagine last month as well. It's so fascinating that everything is developing so fast, sometimes overwhelmingly fast. So I cannot really make a reliable prediction for that. But I do want to point out some overlooked points that agentic AI actually has the potential of replacing ChatGPT or Claude as the entry of general AI. I wrote a blog post here. Let me paste the link here so that you could also see more examples from there. It's I use Cursor to do a lot of things, not limited to coding. I know it's designed as an editor and especially a coding editor, but it's not limited to that. For example, we can do general Q&A. We can ask it questions like ChatGPT. We could ask it to translate documents, and because it's an editor, we get a much friendlier interface. We even could ask it to do RAG. As long as we put our documents under the current folder and press the command enter rather than the mere enter to it, it will first do the retrieval and then do the generation. And the quality is actually pretty good. I put the entire blog's content into the folder and ask it how my attitude against the GPT changed over time. And it gives a pretty comprehensive and even insightful summarization. It could also do search, as we demonstrated. It could also do all different kinds of task execution, as we just demoed. So I really think agentic AI is not limited to coding. It's not limited to like coding editor like Cursor, but has the potential of directly competing with the ChatGPT in the Claude.ai. Yeah, that's it for my answer.
Cool. Thank you, Dr. Wang. We have one more question from the Slido. So, well, this is asking if everyone should become a startup owner or business people to survive in the future.
No, it's yeah, I totally understand that because I'm not interested in business as well. You can tell that I'm a pretty technical person, so I totally understand that, and I agree. I agree that is a valid concern, but I don't think so. The thing is, if you take a look at our demo, the reason why it feels like business because it's named the weekly business review, because the task you're undertaking is a business task. I can show you a lot more tasks. One example is I was trying to do some visualization on my algorithm. I really want others to understand the intuition of my algorithm. But I'm not a artist. I also don't know how to make animation. So I just turned to Devin or Cursor, ask it to generate a fascinating, visually pleasing video for me. It did a good job. It did it in like 2 minutes without me opening and learning about Photoshop or all the different fancy tools I can't name with. So even artwork, it could do. You don't really need any sense of business to do that. Another example is when I prepare this demo, I need to generate a QR code. And as you know there, if I use some online free tool to generate a QR code, it usually put in some secret sauce there. That is, the QR code will actually not directly pointing to your website, but first they point to that code generator's website so that they could get some traffic statistics, and then redirected to your website. I don't really want that. So after searching online for a while, I directly ask Cursor, just generate a QR code for me for this website. It did that in 30 seconds. So you also don't need business sense on that either. I wanted to point it out that the entry barrier of using AI is much lower than we thought. It could really benefit us in a lot of surprising ways, and not limited to our work. It could just make your life much easier with the agentic AI.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Wang. Yeah, I believe that AI, these tools will unlock much more, I would say, possibilities for all of us, especially people with ideas. I remember saying from the investors that this current era will be the era for the idea people. Anyhow, so I will start with her question. So we have a question coming in from Live is, how do you ensure or verify the outputs, as we have shown in the full agent V3 model, that numbers are correct, outputs and things are correctly formatted?
That's a great question. Actually, that's very, very important, a critical important, very, very important aspect in using AI. Imagine, as we said before, our relationship with AI is not really a tool use anymore. It's more like we are managers. We need to manage AI. Actually, in our course, we dedicated 2 modules to describe how to be a good manager on AI, how to mitigate the risk. And to mitigate the risk, and more importantly, get observability on that, we need to, there's no silver bullet. There's nothing that if you do this prompt trick, the AI will always be correct. It's not the case. We need a mechanism. It's pretty much like if you are the manager of a human team, your direct reports won't be 100% precise and correct as well. So it's not a new field for humans. We have a lot of management tricks and skills to deal with that. More specifically, risk mitigation. We need to set up a bunch of mechanisms to check the correctness, sometimes manually, sometimes automatically, such as unit test, as early as possible on the AI's output, so that if it makes mistakes, it will fail early, will be discovered early, without having to coming back and forth. And there are a bunch of best practices like checklists and automated tests on that, which we will spend hours on that in the course. But due to the limit of time here, I can only mention that our relationship of AI with AI is manager versus AI relationship. B, assessing the quality of the AI's work is a critical responsibility of the manager. And C, mitigating the risk is among the assessing part, but it requires complicated and systematic mechanism set up, pretty much like human teams.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Wang, for the answer.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ilya. Dr. Yang, it's been a great presentation. Thank you so much. So I'm a software engineer. I've been looking into like agentic AI as well myself. Super interested about this topic. I know about like LangChain, Llama Index, like those kind of tools. I heard of Cursor, didn't try it myself. I think it has a great potential. So I also kind of like understand that you showed a great demo, like walking us through all of the 5 stages. But I think like in general, like LLMs, like even like agentic LLMs, right? And yeah, they kind of like excel if you give it like a certain task, like in limited context, right? Which we saw in the demo. And if you also know how to guide it, it's also like a good question. Where like but imagine my case, right? So I'm kind of like thinking instantly, I want to kind of like apply it for work, right? And I work at a big organization, financial services, like 35,000 people. there's like a lot of data to work with, right? And it's like all distributed across various systems. There's like Confluence, there's like Microsoft entire ecosystem, Power BI. You get data from meetings, right? We actually use like Copilot for notes, but it's all still distributed, right? So in case I want to kind of analyze, let's say even like individual kind of system, I'm coming from a system design standpoint, right? I want to analyze a system, but there's like so many teams involved, right? And they keep their like knowledge of records in different places. How can I apply like agentic AI in that context to do my work more efficiently? What are your thoughts on it?
That's a great question. I do believe this is a very important aspect of the application. And I have two suggestions, one from a business perspective, one from a technical perspective. From a business perspective, I want to mention that LLM isn't a silver bullet. It is indeed a very hard task of getting everyone on the same page across the entire 35,000 organization. It is hard. So probably we could start smaller from a team and gradually expanding it. In this iteration, we accumulate more experiences and recognize more pitfalls and making mistakes internally and correcting them. This is the first suggestion. From a second suggestion, it's on the technical side. From a system design perspective, my recommendation is using an architecture of cascaded processing. More specifically, say you have a lot of different data sources, which definitely have a large amount of data. We could potentially use a very cheap LLM, such as GPT-4o Mini, to process all of them and to do the filtering. For example, if you're only interested in, I don't know, API discovery, then we will be able to just ask it, is it relevant with API discovery, like openapi.json, etc.? Then it will only give you the yes or no answer, greatly filter out the non-relevant content, and make this data more organized as well as in a smaller amount. This is the first stage in the cascade. The second stage is you use a slightly more expensive LLM such as GPT-4o to ask it, hey, based on this analysis, what projects, the current data, what projects do you see are potentially exposing their API or any of your specific question? Then it will be able to process even further, given more organized as well as deeper answers to that. Then finally, you may use a very expensive model such as O1 to ask it to give some real insights and analytics results. If you take a step back and look at those three stages, it serves three goals. The first goal is it greatly reduces the amount of data stage by stage so that you are allowed to spare more money on more intelligence level. The second is, in this case, it also reduces the messy, I would call it messiness, or improves the structure of the data. The input data is potentially your meeting notes from Copilot. That's totally unstructured. It's natural language. But after GPT-4o, Mini probably is a little bit more structured. It has potentially a simple, it's in JSON, but most of them are still in a single field of, say, text. But after GPT-4o, without Mini, the second stage, it is more organized, potentially with acting as a JSON with more fields. And after O1, it's readily being picked up by any backend you want to serve. So the second purpose is it improves how structured it is. And the third purpose is this cascaded structure also improves the depth or the informative of this, how informative is this information. Because you're using more like deeper and more capable LLMs, you're able to do so. So from a technical perspective, especially for large LLM relevant projects, I would recommend a cascaded architecture to get a trade-off between the cost and the intelligence.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Do we have any questions from online? Anyone would like to ask Dr. Wang? Feel free to open your mic. Let me see if there are online questions. All right. So with that said, we are actually a little bit over than our previous planned time. So I would like to thank everyone for joining us today and joining Dr. Wang for his amazing talk and demo and his very insightful answers to these very insightful questions. And it's amazing, I guess, what agents can do in currently, and it only leaves us much to imagine for the year to come. So with that, I would like to wish everyone happy holidays and enjoy your upcoming vacations and play around with the new tools, Cursor AI, the agents, have fun. And yeah, again, all the resources, codes and everything will be shared afterwards with our members through the email. So stay tuned. Yeah. Thanks all
Thank you.
for
Thank you for having me. Bye. Thanks.